Hello and welcome back. I am that James guy, and in this video we're going to be looking at Europa Universalis IV, which is the latest DLC coming from Paradox Interactive for Europa Universalis, which is a grand strategy game from 1444 through to 1821, covering the great periods of history from the Age of Reformation, the Age of Exploration, and the Age of industrialization, and the birth of the Age of the Spinning Wheel, really. So we're going to be looking at some of the mechanics and changes, the tweaks that are coming in this DLC, and why I think some of them are very important. We'll be looking at the three biggest changes, and yeah, so without further ado, let's kick things off with mechanic and change number one. So, the estates mechanic, which is one of the three biggest changes coming in Emperor. Currently, estates are a little boring to say the least. They are very much click button, get mana, come back in 10 or 25 years and, do it all over again. Press the same button, get the same bonus, and off we go. There are some passive bonuses currently that you get from keeping estates loyal and happy, but basically that's just controlled by pressing the same buttons in the same order. Now things are different. Estates have shares of your global territory rather than assigning a single province to a single estate. You now have percentages of your country governed by various people and things. So what the change means is that now you grant privileges and they give you bonuses and things, and they are for set time periods. This change overall reminds me very much of the slider mechanic in Europa Universalis IV, the previous game. Now, for those of you who have not played EU3, sliders were very interesting. They allowed you to tailor your nation and mould it into what you wanted it to become, what you wanted it to be. For example, sliders were things like centralization at one end, decentralization at the other. You started somewhere in the middle, probably towards the decentralization end, and you ended up over the period of the game traversing your way through to where you wanted to be. The trouble with the mechanic, and presumably the reason why it was dropped, was that, well, France always started at X and always wanted to be at Y. So there was no reason other than roleplay or deciding that you were going to be decentralized France, and that wasn't particularly effective. You would just go in the same direction and press the same buttons at the same time. Now, the link rather that I see between the estates mechanic and the sliders mechanic is that I think this could end up going in the same way. France is always going to have certain provinces producing certain goods. Therefore, it stands to reason that it's going to give the same production privileges to the same estates and get the same bonuses back, and it will always do them in the same order for the same reason, because, well, that's what France does, that's what it has, so that's the advantage it can lever into, more ducats and more monarch points and all the rest of it. So, hopefully, and having not played with the new mechanics yet, I don't know, but my hope is that the bonuses are short-term enough and dynamic enough that, depending on your situation, you will choose different things at different times. Maybe you're having a slightly better game and you've gained the Dutch lands early as France. Therefore, you want more trade bonuses because you have control of the English Channel. Or maybe you've ended up going into Spain quicker than you normally would. Therefore, your production is different and you will grant the burghers the privilege of wool as opposed to the privilege of grain, for example. So there is definitely going to be some possibility there of a great new mechanic that enables you to really tailor your nation. And it does bring back almost something that I really liked in EU3, which was the slider mechanic. Though, as I said earlier, there always was the bested slot option. And I do hope the estates mechanic doesn't go that way. But it remains to be seen, and hopefully it'll be a good change. So, on to thing number 2. So, major change DOS, major change 2. It's Imperial Incidents, which is potentially an unlikely contender for something I'm going to be discussing in this video, as they aren't necessarily an entirely new mechanic. They are, in fact, changes to some of the oldest content in EU4. Some of the first major events in the game were things like the Burgundian Inheritance and the Shadow Kingdom. And the Imperial Incidents really have taken those events and leveled them up. They are better than they were before, from what we've seen. Taking a look at the Shadow Kingdom, Crisis, Imperial Incident chain, we can see that the Emperor really does have two options now. It can risk it for a biscuit and try and rein them in through warfare, or it can just abandon them and say, sod it. What this does is it promotes conflict in a way that isn't railroaded. And that was really the problem with these events in their first incarnation. We will look at a different one now. We'll talk about, say, the Burgundian Inheritance and the Dutch Revolt. Previously, you had a situation where the Burgundian Inheritance fires, and either Austria, Spain, or France get the clay. Okay, so they've got land now that they didn't have before. Someone might fabricate a claim on them, whatever. You might get attacked for it. But now, with the new Imperial Incident, things actually happen that drive that conflict beyond just, I'm going to fabricate on it. Now, the Dutch Revolt will fire. So France, which was stuck between this alliance block of Austria and friends, now can fight the actual revolting Dutch. They can interact with the Emperor through this event chain to make things happen for their benefit. So really changing these dynamic historical events, which was what they were called in their original incarnation back when EU4 was being produced, and I believe they are still called that, but recreating these in a new way with deeper mechanics really will improve player agency. And it won't railroad the game, but it will certainly push conflict and push things to happen, which might not happen otherwise. Primarily, I'm excited to try these new Imperial Incidents. There's, I think, 4 of them, citation needed, that really are shaping up to be quite interesting event chains to play through and see what happens. But yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on them and see what I can do as the Emperor, and certainly see how it will shape the alternate history that I will develop as I play in the Holy Roman Empire. So, with that finished, it's time for the biggest change that's coming in Emperor, and potentially one that has definitely needed to be made. So, see you in a second. My favourite change coming in Emperor? Well, it's mercenaries. Land warfare has been stagnant for a while now due to being able to extend your manpower pool indefinitely with money. Changing mercenaries into a finite resource that has to be leveraged for benefit means that your bank now extends your capability to wage war, rather than just being your capability to wage war. This will allow countries like Switzerland to maintain wars for longer and leverage military gain into an economic gain more efficiently, especially in the early game when mercenary manpower is a greater proportion of manpower in universe, in the world. Other nations that don't have mercenary national ideas suited to the use and maintenance of mercenaries will no longer just need to take administrative as one of their first idea groups because of the 25% available mercenaries, the 25% cheaper mercenaries. It will just be less effective for them to do that. We may well see administrative being picked up for the 25% core creation cost, specifically in the early game when you're doing your massive opening expansion bid, but I expect it will be ignored later on. For countries that have the ability to make considerably more money via the land available to them, let's take France as an example again from earlier, those juicy Benelux provinces, they will be more interested potentially in economic, trade, innovative, or humanist, or religious, especially religious with the changes coming to Catholicism, which will have a far greater effect on their nation and their ability to expand their nation early in the game. I am going to do an in-depth video on the manpower changes and the change to mercenaries and how it will completely change the meta. However, I don't really want to stray too far in depth with this right now in this video, as without looking at those changes in the game itself, it's going to be quite hard to pinpoint exactly what they mean for the meta. So stay tuned and we will definitely delve into that soon. So no upcoming changes in EU4 video would be complete without the map change that I am most looking forward to. So I'm looking forward to Bavaria, and we will definitely be doing a Let's Play over here on YouTube, Bavarian beer drinkers and the formation of their empire. I look forward to that, and I look forward to seeing you there. We will definitely form Germany with a beer-themed aesthetic, or more beer-themed aesthetic, I guess. So if you want to watch me play games live, you can check me out over on twitch.tv/thatjamesguy01. And if you want to see more YouTube content like this, then please do like, subscribe, and ring the bell, which is going to be down here somewhere, I guess. And because it really does help me out. So thanks very much, guys. Have a good one. Stay safe. See you again soon. Oh, I need to end the video.